I would say greetings, this is Kabanka Pyramid representing the Lion Voice vlog. Make sure that them check it out and stay tuned. Seeing Ras Tafari blessings every time.
I said.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Jaja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lion's Voice. Now put it, I Jollifer said that.
This is
The Abyssinians.
the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is
The Lion's Voice.
They had no fear, no fear at all.
It was he must start. It was God. Let him be praised. He must start. It was God. Let him be praised.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it's Exodus. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Rastafari. Lion of it tried with lioness like I do. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them. Roast and parch them.
Empress Manel, and a young scientist. Your role universally unfold. Be told, Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the Lion's Voice, Rastafari.
Greetings, this is Warrior King, and the time has come for the lions and the lioness to tell their own story. This is the Lion's Voice. Give thanks and praise for the wonderful blessing that's been poured on me. Give thanks and praise. Jah use it as an instrument to set the people free. Jah give her the powers to chant. Jah give her the powers to chant. Rastafari, the Lion's Voice.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the Lion's Voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the Lion's Voice, Rastafari.
Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to the Lion Voice, because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the Lion's Voice. Raw.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, With the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion vice, got to show the people them the life. Lion vice. Well, front to us a son was born and a child was given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called the Wonderful Counselor, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Them call him Rastafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Them call him Rastafari. When he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Rastafari. Lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Them call him Rastafari. Read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration from Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England or Cote d'Ivoire, no matter if you're brown or black like Qatar. Haile Selassie say fi end all tribal war. A time fi gather Mount Zion, fi drive solar car from the car straight to Zanzibar. Who we are, the sons of Rastafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Rastafari. When he was grown in airplanes he fly. Then Rastafari. The lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Then Rastafari. We do everything.
iRoots Records, an online shop for reggae and dub vinyl, CDs and Rastafari books. Rastafari owned and operated for over 15 years. We ship worldwide. We have many titles from Frontline Publications in stock. We have 50 plus Akabeka Midnight titles, which we believe is the most of any shop in the world. Special invite for the Lion Pride. Use code Lion's Voice and save 10% store-wide. If you spend $125 or more, the discount goes up to 15%. Visit us online at www.irootsrecords.com. The time has come.
321 Productions and RBG Alliance presents the 3rd annual Conscious Reggae Concert Family Unity Fest,
Featuring the Abyssinians, Aisha Bell, Mary Isaacs, Ragalux, I Brave, and many more at the Jammings in New Kingston. 2,500 pre-sold, 3,000 at the door. Children under 12 for free. Don't miss the Abyssinians live in Kingston, Jamaica. Can't be missed. History.
In the haunting echoes of violence against women in St. Anne, Jamaica, a mysterious vigilante emerges. For the woman painted purple unfolds a gripping narrative of empowerment, retribution, and the pursuit of justice. Brenda and her group sisters bond together in therapy over their common struggles, but soon their group becomes the subject of an investigation. As the vigilante's actions escalate, the relentless detective, Officer Woodley, races to unmask the mystifying figure. For the woman painted purple is a pulse-pounding tale that explores the boundaries of justice, revenge, and the fighting spirit. This thrilling saga delves into the complexities of dealing with mental health, domestic abuse, and finding love after. Own your copy today. Visit www.devanigreen.com.
This is The Black Heart Man, Rastafari children's picture book with hand-painted illustrations and rhythmic storytelling. This is a journey you do not want to miss. We offer worldwide shipping, so order your copy today at www.degreerspaintbrush.com. Alternatively, you can order your copy from TikTok. If you are interested in stocking the book, please email us at degreerspaintbrush@gmail.com. Give thanks.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chazmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man, creative industry attorney. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk Live. Welcome to Lion Talk Live, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Tonight, we have a very special episode. We are going to be examining what is going on with CARICOM and this whole reparation argument. Also, some of the history of Rastafari and St. Lucia. We just had our Elder Bongo Wisely on the program, and now we're going to another stalwart in the St. Lucia Rastafari community, Ras Iron. And we give thanks because tonight we're going to get a look at St. Lucia as we have never before. You know, we've had Honorable Priest Kailash on, we've had Bongo Wisely on, a couple other ones, but we continue to say that Rastafari is global, and we love when we can bring different voices, give the family an update, what's happening with Rastafari in a particular territory. And for my St. Lucia Lion Pride, those who are just finding us today because you want to see what Ras Iron talk about, welcome to the Lion Voice Network. This is the IDEM platform. The word is spreading across the earth. We are 75,000 plus strong. I'm about to hit 76,000. And that's because the IDEM continue to share the word sound. The IDEM are spreading. I just got the greatest compliment in my life from one of the watchers of the Lion Voice Network. She sent me a message, one of them sisters, and said she went to her mother's house, and her mother grew up as Rastafari. She went to her mother's house, and her mother was watching the Lion Voice Network and say how much she loved the programs and how informative. That's the best compliment I get, in my life, because it showed that Rastafari families. Because yes, I love that we're a Pan-African platform and unapologetically Pan-African. I always said we wanted to build this to feed the root of the movement. As someone chatting for over 20 years, and looking and seeing the root of the movement that I stood in love with as a young man, I could see there was nothing really feeding that. Everything branch off. Yes, we give thanks for that. But the root, coming out of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, coming out of that struggle, working class struggle, was not being honored. And that's what we built this platform, to water and strengthen the root, that the fruit can flourish all over. And we're seeing that manifest in our Lion Pride on Patreon. People of all nations gather to support the mission. So big up all of our Lion Pride on Patreon. Big up all of our Ubuntu Lion Pride. That's the one-time payment, $100 US. You become a lifetime member, and saying that I am because the I is. The vision, of course, is to have a world-class Rastafari media studio, and we're on our way. We're not stopping. We have some surprises coming this month that we're going to be sharing with the IDEM. And I can't talk about some of the things that's coming down the pipeline, but just know that His Majesty who give I the vision for rise up Rastafari independent media in this way, because we have so many others doing the great work of Rastafari media, but this particular sip that the IDEM getting, His Majesty gave I the vision to rise it in this time, and we see it happening. So big up the IDEM self if you have supported the platform. Big up Frontline Books. Big up all of the global family. Before I bring forward the guests, we have some updates. This is your global, we don't have CNN, but we as Rastafari have to stay informed. We have to stay knowledgeable. So let me just give the IDEM a little sip
Join us on Sunday, August 9th, 2026 at 5 p.m. for the 25th annual fundraiser for the Shashamane Foundation at the Silver Spring Civic Center, Great Buffalo Hall in Silver Spring, Maryland. Come be a part of an evening that helps transform lives by supporting quality education and sustainable development at the JRDC School in Shashamane, Ethiopia. Your presence and generosity help empower children, strengthen communities, and build a brighter future. Can't attend? You can still make a difference by donating at shashamane.org or by scanning the event QR code. Mark your calendar, bring your family and friends, and let's build a lasting legacy together. We'll see you there. Rastafari TV and Site Media are proud sponsors of the Shashamane Foundation.
Big up Rastafari TV, Sister Fanai. She joined us at our 70,000 subscriber episode. Support family. So you see what's coming down the line. Shashamane School fundraiser, one of the great collective projects being spearheaded by Rastafari globally. We have shattered the propaganda that Rastafari is not doing works on this channel. We have over 1,000 pieces of content that says that is not true. It's propaganda. So we give thanks that the item can see different works, but it's not just to see the works. You know, the fullness of this channel, Rastafari is always been movement. It's not a static vibration. It's not a historic thing that we're talking about in a museum. Rastafari is moving. On the day when Rastafari get ready, them affy move, It's not that they may move, them affy move. So we want the item who are watching the channel, support shashamane.org, go donate one cocoa full basket and every meka moko strategy, your $10, your $20, it's never too small to give. We have to, as a collective, finance this uprising. This is the one thing I want us to, because we've been losing the economic war, and because of that, most of the ones them are paycheck to paycheck or hand to mouth. You know what I mean? And we want to change that about our movement. And we have to be honest where we are. But the way we're going to climb out of that is by everyone contributing small amounts to collective projects. And it's hard to do that without information, which is why the Rastafari independent non-aligned media is so critical, why I raise this. So this is an economic tool that we're building here. Lion Pride, we are tradespeople, because we are using economic tools to build Zion on earth. That is the mission statement, really, of the Lion Pride. Anything else, anything less is not worthy of our time in this Armageddon. The item see that the fighting in Iran has continued. War, the Straits of Hormuz remain closed, so that food shortage that we've been telling the item about, the breakdown of the global supply chain, inflation, all these things that we've been talking about on this platform for over 2-3 years is coming to a head. August is going to be very interesting for I and I to observe. We will be streaming same way. But again, it's preparation time, the great Armageddon. I said to the item, this is going to be a long war. So it's not about panic and rush and, scare. No, that's not. It's about diligently making preparation, building out the nation. So when we bring forward the workers, even the brethren who is our guest today, we're going to ask him to, share with us any information where one can support. And I know not everyone can support, but we have enough members of the Lion Pride now that if everyone supports, even once a month, we'll have people getting support all the time. And you support who resonate with the eye, So everyone just do their little small bit and it becomes a big bit because our numbers are growing. We're aiming for over 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're on pace to do that because of the item. We're about to press gas in a certain kind of way with the type of content, So stay tuned. You know what I mean? The thing is mightyful. Big up to Frontline Books. Oh, before I forget, and we're gonna bring forward the guest. He's ready. He's roaring. Before I forget, Saturday, my sister Medina Simple Life. I hope she's here. Said she misses the Saturday morning episode. So we say, you know what? We have to get forward on the Saturday morning mission. So this Saturday, we have a serious panel. We're going to South Africa to find out what's happening with the xenophobia, you know, the anti-Pan-African sentiment. Field Marshal Tau Tau is coming forward, and that's going to be a big one. You know, people love to hear the brethren reason, sometimes controversial. So we're going to hear his perspective. We have Ras Batulu, Ras Gideon, who's been on the platform, Rastafari attorney, Sister Mimi, and we have also Sister Solo, who is a artist, reggae artist in South Africa. And that's going to be co-hosted by the legendary Sekou Tafari of Frontline Books, one of the brethren who was fighting the apartheid struggle as an elder through the written word, through Rastafari Speaks and other things. So we had to invite him so we can put proper context. So that's going to be major. The flyer should drop tomorrow. So the item, stay tuned. Big episode. So only I and I can bring programming like this because we have that interest. We want to know what's going on the ground from a Rastafari perspective because we chant One Africa. So we want to hear what the Rastem in South Africa, born and raised, are saying. That being said, tonight, let's get down to the business of CARICOM now. Tonight, the brethren is the first time on the Lion Voice Network, but this is the first of many. He's the president of ICAR, which is the umbrella organ for Rastafari in St. Lucia. Also a member of the CRO, the Caribbean Rastafari Organization. He is someone who is a pillar in the community. Let me big up Lidge Tafari, who recommended this brethren to I. A lot of the guests, you know, I and I Lion Pride and Patreon, as I said, will help to refer. So this is a community effort. It's no longer just I and I Queen putting this forward anymore. This is now a community effort. Also big up to Mama G, who was the first recipient of our Lion Pride and Patreon Community Works grant. Every month we're selecting a community worker to give $100 US, and then we interview them about their works and encourage others to support them as well. And this is just a highlight of the people doing the work. And I told Mama G, because she gave some of the money to her elder, I said, this grant, Community Works grant, if they take the money and go to the spa and sit down in a pot of hot water all day, we're glad for that. This money does not have to go to the works that they're doing. This is just a community saying we see the eye works, we honor the eye, we love the eye, and keep going. You know what I mean? That is what we need right now. Encouragement, not criticize and tear down. No, we Lion Pride is a different culture over here. So if this is your first time watching, you buck up in a force of nature. I tell them the truth. All right, I'm long-winded, you know, so I can keep going, but we have such an interesting guest. We have to bring him forward. Lion Pride, help I to give a warm welcome to the great Ras Iron, Aaron, Alexander. Royal greetings, family.
Greetings, my honorable brethren. It's a pleasure to be on your program here this evening, coming live out of St. Lucia, also known as Iyanola. So I'm putting the program. Of course, you mentioned and pick up Lucia Tafari. I want to pick him up again for making the link possible and for making it, you know, asking I to be available to be on the program, and you know, I really looking forward to a good reasoning, you know, where we can like this.
Does the eye have a fan going there or something?
Yeah,
Can you turn off the fan because it's chopping up your sound? We're not hearing the eye clear. If you turn off the fan and let me hear. Yes, family. Um, Powerful brethren forward in here. So talk, let
Yes,
me
I
hear.
am. Yeah, man. You hear me better now?
Yeah, man, a lot better, a lot better.
I
Give
give thanks.
thanks.
So
Give
I was
thanks.
just saying, it's a pleasure to be on the program this evening with the Eye Honorable and coming live out of St. Lucia, Iyanola, and bigging up Brother Liege as well for making the link possible. So I'm looking forward to a good reasoning with the Eye this evening.
Give thanks. Give thanks. We have a tradition here on the Lion Voice Network. You know what I mean? We're gonna ask the eye to step into the Lion Talk time machine and to take us to the moment of the eye birth and to give us the origin story because I know that this is the Armageddon and the book of life is being written. So all of the angel and the angelic beings trotting the earth in this time, we want to know their origin story before Hollywood go make a movie about Ras Iron and tell us something will never happen. You know what I mean? Paint the picture. This is a blockbuster film. Paint the picture for I and I.
See, well, Ras Iron, Aaron Alexander, not born into any Rastafari family, but I got my calling from, my early teens, coming out of secondary school. So when I got the calling, I started studying more about my African roots, my culture, my history, studying some of the great leaders of Pan-African descent, the Marcus
Yes.
Garvey and Mandela. And I
Hold on. Stick a pin, because you're going too fast. Take us before. Where in St. Lucia did is there a province? Because we have St. Lucia Lion Pride, They want to know where is Ras
did,
Iron. They want to know where you go prep school. Did you run up and down, you play football? What was going on with the young lion before him
yeah,
become,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So,
All
so
right.
take us, where was the guy born in St.
Well,
Lucia?
I was born in the city area, Castries, the capital
Okay,
area.
okay.
And I was born in the month of January. Just, I would say, one day, and it comes to the date of the Honorable Martin Luther King being the 15th of January, but I was the 14th of January. And in 1975, and I attended the Mondidor, that is a school just higher up from the city, Mondidor Government School, went to primary school and so on. Then I went on to secondary school, passed the secondary school time at the
Okay.
current senior secondary school, graduated in 92.
Okay.
And since from the school, from the third form, fourth form, around 15, 16, I got the calling, of
Okay.
Rastafari,
Okay. Was
and
there a lot of Rastafari in St. Lucia at that time? What was your first memory of seeing a Ras?
well, my uncle was a Rastaman,
Okay.
and, but he was not an uncle who I could go and reason with because, it was more like having the dreads, but not really having the conscious mind, He was more a bad
Yes.
boy kind of thing, but he
Okay.
having the dreads and so on. Then even my brother, my elder brother, ended up having his dread as well. But again, not having the consciousness of Rastafari, but just
Okay.
having what I call the cosmetics, having the dreadlocks and so on, but then when I sight up Rastafari myself, and I started growing my dreads and, I started studying about the leaders and them, the leaders and them who were some of the front runners and the forerunners of the movement from the early days, brethren like Howell and so on, I started digging, I started searching, I went on a real search, for my roots and my culture and my identity, Jehovah's, and then I came across His Majesty, and when I started Rastafari, I didn't even really know about His Majesty. I just heard about the term Rastafari and
Yes.
started researching about it and who it was linked to, and then I realized that Rastafari is the name of His Majesty, and His Majesty
Okay.
Haile Selassie being the title of Rastafari.
Yes.
So I started digging some more, started learning about the apartheid system in South Africa and the struggles of man
Okay.
like Mandela, learn
Okay.
about man like the founding fathers of the OAU, Kwame Nkrumah and all them man there, Jomo Kenyatta, You know, so I really started going on a search to know myself, you know, and knowing my purpose in life, you know. And I realized, well, my people are lost, you know, my people are asleep. And I decided, well, at the time, being a young youth, I started a movement called the Uprising Youth Movement. You know, I mean, back in the days of school, you know, being involved in sports and so on, the uprising movement, we started going along that same line, you know, getting involved in a lot of sporting activities, having local shows, you know, what we call matinee, you know, like a local theater, you know, right under my mother's house. You know, I
Okay.
organized like a theater, you know, and people would pay $1 and come inside and we would watch documentaries of Mandela, watch the
Nice.
history and some of the coronation videos of His Majesty, you know. So we started having these same movie sessions in community
Okay.
centers, you know, as a youth movement. We started moving around the country, going to different community centers. Leach
Okay.
Tafari was also part of that at some point.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
going to the different community centers, inviting the people from the community to come and sit down with us and hear some of the history. You know, some of our motto was revealed or concealed because we felt that a lot of our history was hidden and a lot of our of what we were supposed to know about ourselves as a people, these things were being suppressed, you know. So we started revealing a lot of these things to the people all over the country, you know, and going on radio talk shows as well. Some of the media personalities, when they heard about the movement, they would invite us to some of the talk shows to talk to the people, whether it be radio talk shows or television talk shows. We were invited to make appearances on different radio stations and television stations. You know, until then, we reached the point where now we started the formation of the council, the Iyanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari. You know, in the early genesis of this movement in '97, when that movement got established, and I started going around and listening to some of the things that were going on. And the elder that you had on your program, Bongo Wisely, was part of it as well. At the time, he was the
Okay.
PRO of the movement. You know, so I started working very closely with Bongo Wisely, and Bongo Wisely was also part of he's still part of the Nyabingi Tabernacle. You know, I
Yes.
started organizing youth. We organized
Stick
buses
a
to go
pin.
down
One
to
one second. 1 second.
Raya.
If you can look at the bottom of the screen, family, you will see Bongo Wisely's contact information. We are still raising funds for the elder. So
Yes,
as
I.
he just mentioned, Bongo Wisely, I just want to let the ones them know the elder is raising funds to do a cataract surgery. 300 people, $10 that wipe away. You know what I mean? So I know more than 300 people will watch this video. Make we just wipe away that for the elder. Whatever you can afford, if you can do more, that the elder can buy himself a CMOS before him go get the surgery, or you know him can comfortable, whatever. You know, let's do that for our elder as we get this history, as we become closer as a global family. Let us make sure that the aged are indeed protected. And I'm going to also bring up the fundraiser for our Asian Nana Faraika later in the broadcast, the GoFundMe. These are things that as we grow as a community, we're going to bring in because the need is so great. You know, yes, we want to focus on the offense, but we also have to be playing defense at the same time. In terms of the defense of our Asians and our youth them. We also are going to be talking about the ARC virtual summer camp shortly as well. I'm working on a commercial. So if you have children, we have a virtual Rastafari summer camp coming up with Rastafari children all over the world. So we'll have more information on that. So I just want to put that in as the brethren say Bongo Wisely. Yeah, make sure we support the Asian. All right, continue. Back into the blockbuster movie. That's like a commercial in the blockbuster film, you know, because you're telling a story that I'm watching the cinema of the eye, talking about the eye, them going to the community centers and that youth energy, you know what I mean? And then meeting up with the Asian Bongo Wisely. But continue.
Yeah, man. So as the youth movement, we established like a study group as well. We bought a lot of books, you know, books like the Rasta and Resistance. You know, we got books like the Third Testament. We got a lot of different Black conscious books to educate ourselves, you know. So we've really digging and delving into our history as from youth time, you know, and then like I mentioned, the council came around and we got involved there. We organized buses to take people to different meetings, take people down to the tabernacle, you know. So we've been very active from youth days, you know, and now getting into more mature stage, you know, of our development, you know. We got involved in the higher level of getting involved into the national council, the Rastafari Council, where now I spent a couple of years in there working with the council, you know, in different capacities of secretary, PRO, assistant treasurer, vice president, and then being elected as the president. So I've really been around the council for quite some time, that the members have vested the trust and the confidence in I, man, and elected I as the president now. You know, that is my third stint as the president of the council. So this is where we are at right now. And we continue to do the works to support the Rastafari community in various forms and so on. And what you mentioned there earlier about Bongo Wisely, definitely this is a cause that we're going to be assisting Bongo Wisely as well. We have done so with other Rastafari persons who had to get surgeries sometimes done even in Trinidad, that we have assisted them. Some of our persons needed medical assistance in even here in St. Lucia itself to get some medical assistance. We have done so. In terms of persons who probably lost loved ones, we have assisted as well. We do programs to assist our youth with back to school support for parents, you know. Back to school is always a hectic time in getting books and school stuff. So we have a program where we support parents to help them to send their children back to school. So, you know, we are involved in a number of community projects, you know, farming, etc. So the council is a very active council. And of course, we do a lot of fundraisers as well. And we also is a way the liaison between the Rastafari community and the government of the day. So we are a very active organization down here in St. Lucia. We have a very active Rastafari movement, you know.
Yes. So for those who are not familiar with St. Lucia, give us some background. Why is St. Lucia important? Why should we care about St. Lucia? What is St. Lucia's history?
Well, St. Lucia has a tainted history in as far as Rastafari is concerned. And just like any other Caribbean island where Rastafari movements have been criminalized because of our association with cannabis, you know, so, and that holds true for the entire Caribbean, you know. So that is why even with the CARICOM vibes there right now, where they are actually set up a committee to look into that issue, how their policies have affected the Rastafari community, that is long overdue. So St. Lucia's history is tainted like any other Caribbean island for the treatment of the Rastafari community. St. Lucia is known for, you know, a number of things, you know. I'm sure probably you have heard that St. Lucia is the only Caribbean island that has 2 Nobel laureates. And we seem to have 2 in many things. We have twin peaks, which are called our pitons. We also, right now, we have 2 carnival queens just crowned recently. So it was a tie for the carnival queen. So we have 2 queens. So, you know, St. Lucia is also known for having the fastest woman, I think, in the world now, Julian Alfred, who ran the Olympics. So St. Lucia is the home of Julian Alfred as well. And cricketers, international cricketers like Darren Sammy, you know, they're all St. Lucians. So St. Lucia is also the home of one of the most famous Rastas in St. Lucia is Bongo Wisely. So St. Lucia, St. Lucia is, you know, is a well-known country. You know, we have our good and we have our bad, but nonetheless, it's the place that you know, we were born, and we have to also treat it with a level of respect. But St. Lucia have not always loved all its sons and daughters, you know, and especially when it comes to the Rastafari community, St. Lucia have not always loved us. It's only now, you know, we see the level of love coming forward to us. You know, we have been discriminated against like any other Caribbean island. And I suppose even in the world, you know, different first world countries also have had their discriminatory laws against Rastafari and so on. So St. Lucia is no exception, but nonetheless, you know, we have a vibrant Rastafari community in St. Lucia. We have not given up. We have not gotten weary. We continue to confront the dragon. We continue to speak truth to power. And that is how we're going to continue.
Give thanks, give thanks. In terms of your professional development, how does the earn your bread there in St. Lucia?
Well, by profession, I am a captain by profession. I travel the seas. I take people, run people through the Caribbean islands, up and down. You know, I'm a boat captain by profession.
Wow. So you see why you have to ask these questions, family. How there is our first ship captain, so you know we have to go Black Star Liner in this reasoning.
That is what I'm working on.
You know what I mean? You know we have to go there. I have a vision, you know, because I look at the Marley cruise, you know, as a concept, and they cruise. But I'm saying, what about if we as Rastafari own a cargo ship / cruise ship where on the bottom you're shipping cargo from the Caribbean to Africa, but on the top level, you know, you have a kind of cultural Pan-African cruise, you know, so people getting entertainment every night, cultural artists, you know, during the day, workshops, yoga, and you're going across the Atlantic, and then from the Atlantic they're taking Africans forward to the Caribbean, you know, and they can get that also the education about the transatlantic slave trade while they're traveling over the seas. So, you know, it would be a mix of education and entertainment. But on the bottom, you know, you're shipping commodities, you're shipping cargo, cars, and, you know what I mean? I think that should be something owned by Rastafari. How realistic is that vision as a ship captain?
Well, you see, owning a ship is it's not an easy feat, you know.
Yes.
There are a lot of hurdles to overcome, but nonetheless, you know, I've heard of ventures like GoFundMe for different ventures, and that could be something we can launch where, you know, people can actually contribute, just like in the days of Garvey, people were buying the shares into the Black Star Liner, and Marcus Garvey bought the ships, you know.
Yes.
It is something that is worth looking back at that model and see how in today's world how it can actually work. But all these things are, you know, very possible. I mean, we have to really put our heads together as a community of people, and not just well. I'm happy that you also alluding and mentioning Pan-Africanism, you know, and it's not only about Rastafari. Although some people say that Rastafari is Pan-African, but not all Pan-African will consider themselves as Rastafari.
Yes, exactly.
So, you know, we still have to make that that's the distinguish. We have to distinguish it, you know. So, but these things are very much possible, and I mean, right here in my own space here in St. Lucia, you know, I am trying to establish, you know, some sort of shipping line, but it would be mainly within the Caribbean region.
Okay.
So to actually open it up to go to the Atlantic and travel to Africa and so on, I would definitely be needing some more experienced captains, you know, to work alongside with me, you know, to build a capacity and to actually see how possible such a venture would be. But I mean, if Garvey did it back in the time when there was no social media, there was no a lot of the things that we are exposed to now where we can reach people, and Marcus Garvey was able to do that without having internet and without having smartphones and all these things, you know. So I think a lot is possible, you know.
Serious. I have so many questions for the eye as a shipping captain. Let me go to nature. Have you ever seen any whales in the Caribbean, or what kind of wildlife as a ship captain have you encountered out on the open sea?
Yeah, well, the whales they are seasonal, and they have their time normally like later in the year. You're looking at the months of roughly between September to November. You know, later on in the year, that's when you really start seeing the whales within the Caribbean waters. But we do encounter them. You know, whales and dolphins, you know, sharks. We have all these things, you know, roaming the Caribbean Sea, which you see from time to time, you know. So we do have them.
What species of whale are common in the Caribbean?
For the whales, I'm not sure of the species of the whales that we have in our waters, but we have the I think they call them the bottlenose dolphins.
Yes,
We have
yes.
them, in the Caribbean and so on. So, but we do see whales. Sometimes they have young ones with them as well. So,
Yes.
when they have the young with them, you don't get too close to them. So
Okay.
sometimes while we're on a journey and we spot a whale, we would stop, take some pictures, and let people enjoy the scenery. So it's a mixed bag in the Caribbean, but the seas, are pretty much always calm. It's always a nice ride, taking people from St. Lucia to Martinique next door, which is about 36 nautical miles away from us, and taking them up to Dominica, which is higher up from Martinique, where you have the World Creole Music Festival annually, in Dominica. So we take them up there, which is about 70 nautical miles up north. And we go up to places like Guadeloupe, which is after Dominica. We go up to the Guadeloupe as well, So we go down south, the southern chain. We go down to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We go down to Grenada. We go down to Trinidad. So we go through the Caribbean islands, and especially on special occasions where you have carnival in St. Vincent or carnival in Grenada. We go down like a cultural exchange kind of vibe. So we stick close together as a Caribbean people, and I always tell myself I need to play my role as far as Caribbean integration is concerned to bring the Caribbean people closer together, and transportation is always the issue. It's so expensive to fly, between the islands, although they are so close, So both transportation, sea transportation is a very crucial thing within the Caribbean region,
Does the I know the history of the ferry that used to be in the Caribbean that used to go between the islands?
Yes, I've heard
Give
of
us that history, because a lot of people don't know. That's how Rastafari spread in the Caribbean, was when they had the inter-island ferry.
Yeah.
And if you can let us know the history and also what happened to that.
The one I know of is the one called the Lady Nelson. That one was traveling from Trinidad, traveling up the island chain, going even to countries in the east like Barbados and so on, carrying fruits and vegetables, and also passengers as well. And that Lady Nelson, I believe that ship sank in Trinidad, somewhere around off the coast of Trinidad. But that was a mode of transportation back in the days, of persons moving from island to island. So I've heard also that the Caribbean countries through CARICOM, they are also trying to bring in a fast ferry through the islands. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I think it is something that is needed to move our people around, because CARICOM is very big now on Caribbean integration and moving people, easily and so on, and opening up the borders, etc., which is a good move, So I'm hoping that ferry vision will come to a reality within the Caribbean very soon.
Serious thing. In terms of what's happening now, I think you're a good person for us to talk about what's happening with the price of diesel fuel, because ships run off of diesel, and what's happening in the Straits of Hormuz. Because I talk about global supply chain, and I know a lot of people just said there was a chat, but as someone who's a sea captain on the seas, talk to us about what are you hearing about what's going on the seas with the shutdown of the Straits of Hormuz and the shipping. Are you seeing any impact in the Caribbean region yet? And what do you anticipate coming down the pipeline?
Well, in terms of fuel prices have gone up, not so drastically as some persons were predicting.
Yes.
So, we are still getting by. Some of the petroleum products has also gone up, like the LPG, the cooking gas, and so on.
Yes,
we've had some, but not so drastic to really cause people to really squeeze as much.
Yes.
In terms of the supply chain, yes, we have issues with supply chain, and some of the prices have gone up in the supermarket shelves.
Yes.
But it's amazing that those supermarkets would report that they make so much millions in profits on an
Yes.
annual basis, and yet still they don't see the need at this time to even give customers, a break, give customers some reprieve, and and at least, if you some of them are reporting over 300 million in profits. I mean, my goodness, have a conscience, if at least you bring down your prices, that and it will bite into your profits. Say, for example, 100 million, but you still make 200 million in profits. These people are so greedy, man, and greed
Yes.
is really killing us, and they're reporting they're making so many millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in profits, and yet still they would not seek to bring down the prices to give people a break. So I heard recently that the Prime Minister of Barbados have taken them on, and I've called on them to have a conscience. You cannot be the situation, what's happening, the war and so on, but they tell you in war there is great opportunity, and that is what those merchants are doing. They are keeping
Yes.
the prices high, just for them to make those maximum profits on people. And the
Yes.
Prime Minister of Barbados have taken them on with that, calling on them to have a conscience. So we see in this day and age here, we have some price hikes, so the cost of living has gone up. But nonetheless, we are toughing it out, and we always have to remember, even back in the days of His Majesty, when His Majesty called for universal disarmament at the UN, and the so-called great country of the world, the United States, they were against that, because they wanted this arms race, nuclear arms race, and now, for them to be talking about total annihilation of a whole civilization of people, and His
Yes.
Majesty warned against those things, when he
Yes.
spoke about, disarmament, and calling on the world leaders, letting them know, as long as you building weapons, it creates insecurity for weaker nations. So all our weaker nations now have to try to match you and build their own weapons. So it starts a new arms race. And His Majesty spoke to them and cautioned the world about those things. And
Yes.
now we're seeing that is what is happening there with all those weapons and nuclear war, or the threat of nuclear war and all these things. And we saw and we heard of the words of the great Peter Tosh way back 40 years ago, where he spoke about we don't want no nuclear war, and that is what the world is being threatened right now with those nuclear powers. So, we really have to remember the words of His Majesty in this time, in these times of war and rumors of war and all that, what is going on right now. His Majesty taught the world the way to achieve peace and to maintain peace, but they never listened. They're just gone on in their new arms race, and here we are now being threatened with nuclear war, but like the scripture says, no weapon that is formed will prevail, so we have to know that these kind of weapons, when the time come and they try to bust it, is going to cramp on them and it's not going to work, because His Majesty is still in control, and His Majesty the same way when Mussolini dropped the bombs on Ethiopia, and His Majesty had the power to crumb some of those bombs, and some of them never exploded. So you have to be confident in the victory of good over evil. And we've seen what is happening right now, where one nation feels is so powerful that they could just attack another nation preemptively without being threatened or anything, so that they could just attack another nation. And that same nation now is here in the Caribbean, bombing fishing boats, bombing fishermen all over the place, left, right, and center, with impunity. And there's no law for them. They make the law and they break the law. If another country does those things, then you get all sorts of sanctions, being leveled at you and your government. But they can do that with a free hand and laugh about it. So it's like a Rambo diplomacy, going on in the world right now, where everybody feel that they're the big fish, and they want to wear Caesar's robe, and they want to be the big and mighty, trying to bomb people into extinction. But that can't work. That can't work. They're going to fail. Men will see their dreams and aspirations crumble before their face, and all of their wicked intention to destroy the human race. They will see them things crumble in front of their face. You know, so man have to remain confident in the victory of good over evil, and in spite of all the wars and all the kind of price hikes that's going on, the cost of living going up and so on, we have to turn inward and start planting our own vineyard, because he who
That
does
is
not
it.
cultivate his vineyard shall surely die of hunger. So we
Hmm.
have to ensure that we can cultivate our own foods, and take care of our people in this time.
Serious. You mentioned Haile Selassie the First. How does the eye see the divinity of His Majesty, and how is it relevant for these times?
Well, I need to mention, before I address that one, I need to mention that within the council, the Rastafari Council, we have now dubbed the council and gone further, not just for the advancement of Rastafari, but also the advancement of Pan-African people. Because here in St. Lucia, we have a lot of conscious people, Africa conscious people, people who don't identify with Rastafari, but they identify more with Pan-African, but they do not have any organizations except the Rastafari Council, which is pro-African. So they kind of find a home with us. So they have come amongst us, seeking membership amongst us, to be amongst us, and so we have embraced them to the extent that we have not done it officially, but we are now calling the council the Iyanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari and Pan-African People, because we believe we need to embrace Pan-African people as well, because this is not only about Rastafari. The fight is not only for the Rastafari community, but Black people generally, Pan-African people. So when we made that move, we got a lot of backlash from
Yes.
some of the Rastafari people, who were members of the council.
Yes.
Some of them, so much so that some of them actually left the council.
Okay.
So we try to explain to them that, hey, Pan-African is very much part of Rastafari. His Majesty is considered as the father figure of African unity, Pan-Africanism. We celebrate Garvey was a great Pan-African leader as well. So we need to embrace our brothers and sisters of Pan-African ideology,
Yes.
and so that created a bit of a friction within the council, where some members actually exited the council. But we believe that we're on the right path. It is the right thing to do, to open up the council to embrace our people generally, Pan-African people, and so we've gone with it. Now, of recent times, I'm sure you've heard of CRO, the Caribbean Rastafari
Yes.
Organization. Now,
Yes.
CRO had a similar stance where, in CRO's constitution, they declared that you have to accept the divinity of His Majesty to be a member of CRO. And
Yes.
now they have realized that has come almost like an artificial barrier, which prevents the membership of CRO to grow. So they have
Yes.
now decided that, pretty much going back to even the statement of His Majesty, where His Majesty declared that your religion is personal, but the state must be for all. So CRO has opened up now that CRO is for all, and you don't have, they have removed that component in their constitution that states that you have to accept the divinity of His Majesty to be a member of CRO. So we now, as a local chapter of CRO in St. Lucia, we felt a bit vindicated that CRO has now taken that stance, to embrace Pan-African people, embrace, other people, and they don't necessarily have to accept the divinity of His Majesty, because we have to accept that we as Rastafari, who consider and accept the divinity of His Majesty. There are some Rastafari who don't accept the divinity of His Majesty, but we cannot say that they are not Rastafari. There are people who accept His Majesty as a great Pan-African leader. Some are people that acknowledge His Majesty as a prophet. So however people acknowledge His Majesty, we just have to say, give thanks. At least people pay that level of homage to His Majesty. But we as Rastafari say His Majesty is divine. And through His works and through His utterances, we can see the divinity in His Majesty, that His Majesty was more than man. His Majesty was a step above the ordinary man. So definitely when you see someone like that and you examine them, you could definitely identify and see, well, there's a strain or string of divinity within that person. So there is no doubt in my mind that His Majesty is a divine being. You was to visit I in this time to do the works that He have done upon the face of the earth, not even primarily towards Rastafari per se, but towards humanity. You was because His Majesty stood for humanity. You also, there is a great level of divinity in His Majesty that we as Rastafari have seen, and other persons have seen it as well, and they have chosen to embrace the divinity of His Majesty. But if somebody does not embrace the divinity of His Majesty, and they cite His Majesty as a prophet or a great Pan-African leader and so on, I personally say give thanks, Rastafari.
Give thanks. I think I see it two ways, because here on the Lion Voice Network, we have something called the Rastafari Man Standard. And that standard, one of the pillars is accepting the divinity of His Majesty, because one of the things that we see is that Rastafari is a peculiar people. And, I'm a member of the EWF. Local 12, big up Local 12 convention is on the way. So I think, when I look at Pan-African work, I look more to the EWF. And then I also am a board member of Habisha, which is a Pan-African organization as well. But I also do believe, though, that we need uniquely Rastafari organizations to deal with some of the particular issues that face I and I as Rastafari. That being said, it's Armageddon, and we are literally building the plane as we fly. So I'll be interested to see how CRO evolves with that change. I heard it for the first time. I think Bongo Wisely had blocked that sound. So I'm just hearing that kind of change. So I'm not quick to make a judgment, but I do think that we need uniquely Rastafari organizations. Even now we're developing an ITAL certification standard, and it's acknowledgement that it has to be different than the Black food sovereignty standard, because Black Pan-Africans may, for example, eat pork. They may eat certain things that I and I don't sip on. That doesn't make them not Pan-African, not conscious. But for I and I, we wouldn't necessarily want to mix up our food consumption in a food system that is cross-contaminating them with it, So we would still need a standard by which I and I sip, and how we govern the sip from seed to table. So I think that's fascinating, this evolution in St. Lucia, and I'll be watching very closely to see how it evolves, and this is the first trod on this platform, so we're going to be checking in with the eye to see how that evolves. I know in Jamaica, Raga, which is a committee of the RMO, which is the Rastafari Ganja and Grassroots Association, has members who are not Rastafari as well, who grow sacramental ganja as well. So it's not a unique concept. The only thing is, if we shift, because Rastafari have a lot of battles that we need to fight, and we have very few workers. So we'll see how it, like I said, we see how it evolves. But I think that's fascinating. And I think that also brings us to our topic for the evening, which is, what's going on in CARICOM. And the eye is fresh off of a CARICOM, and I'm going to need the eye because we have viewers from all over the world. Big up all the Lion Pride. If you're watching live, big up yourself. I see Aruba checking in. I saw St. Martin checking in. I saw, who else was checking in? I saw Trinidad. I saw United States. I see the global family checking in. I see Bongo Wisely. I see the elder Johnny Johnson. So I see the family is here. But for those who may not be familiar, we have a large African audience. Explain what is CARICOM, and what is happening. You mentioned regional integration. Just give us kind of a rundown and a background to what's going on.
Okay, well, CARICOM is a grouping of the Caribbean islands, you know, which there are about 15 of them that has grouped together under this umbrella of CARICOM. And they have what you call associated members. They are not full-fledged members of CARICOM, but they have associated members. And CARICOM really was established to bring the Caribbean islands closer together. At one time, there was a federation, the Caribbean Federation, that was back, I believe, back in the 60s, thereabout. And that didn't work out too well, where you had some of the larger islands within the Caribbean who actually dropped out of the federation, and the federation fell apart. And then they regroup and come again as CARICOM, I believe, in the 1970s, thereabout. So CARICOM have been around for quite some time. And the objective of CARICOM is really to bring the Caribbean islands closer together, to trade together, to have the people moving within one CARICOM space. There has been talk about, you know, having a CARICOM currency, having a CARICOM passport. Even now, some of the passports that the various CARICOM member states are issuing, it has the symbol of CARICOM, which is a double C, CC. So it has that feature in the passports right now. So before some of the islands, you had to ensure that you had an actual passport to go into some of the islands. And the Caribbean leaders are now moving towards accepting people traveling within the space with just the ID cards, you know, the identification cards. Some of them even accept your driver's license. So right now, the CARICOM islands are trying to knit themselves closer together. They have what you call a rotating chairmanship. Excuse me. So every 6 months, one of the prime ministers of one of the islands becomes a chairman of CARICOM. So it runs in alphabetical order. So recently you had the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew, who was the chairman of CARICOM. He stayed for his 6 months tenure, and now the Prime Minister of St. Lucia has taken over for the next 6 months. And I believe after that it's going to go to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then it continues in alphabetical order. So CARICOM has that sort of a structure. There's a CARICOM secretariat also, where you have a Secretary General, which is like the nerve center of CARICOM, who coordinates, you know, and implements some of the decisions that the CARICOM heads of government, the decisions that they make. Then after they make decisions, then they have to go back to their respective jurisdictions. If they have to amend laws, you know, within their own jurisdictions, they go to the parliament and they amend the laws. So all the Caribbean islands could be in sync with the laws, etc. So it is really a grouping of the whole Caribbean islands, 15 of them, as I mentioned, and they're trying to harmonize, you know, the customs. They're trying to harmonize the immigration policies. They're trying to harmonize the trade policies, so there could be more trading between the CARICOM islands, you know, so we can solve some of our problems even amongst ourselves. One of the things that we've also heard from them is that for CARICOM to have representation at the African Union, and for our CARICOM to always speak with one voice in international bodies, whether it be at the UN or the African Union, etc. So it is a noble concept. It's a noble idea. It is something that it is good for the Caribbean region, because as you may know, the African Union, well, at the time, the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, when it was formed in '63, and His Majesty traveled and had his world tour, and he traveled to the Caribbean, visited about 6 islands within the Caribbean. And when he was in Jamaica, he made the call for the Caribbean to embrace, for Africa to embrace the Caribbean as a 6th region. As you know, Africa has 5 regions. So he called on the Caribbean leaders to put themselves together and become the 6th region of Africa. So that was a call made by His Majesty since back in 1966. You see, so is only now this thing is being manifested at the African Union, where they are engaging the Caribbean as the 6th region right now. and you have representatives from the 6 region, from the Caribbean, who are on very prominent boards and committees within the African Union. And the African Union and CARICOM is working hand in glove for the whole struggle for reparations, even at the United Nations. The last resolution they passed there, it was supported by, all the Caribbean islands along with the African Union. So it was supported by CARICOM. So on every September the 7th is celebrated as Africa CARICOM Day. So CARICOM is very close to the African Union currently, which is something we applaud. We have been calling for closer links between the Caribbean and Africa for decades, and successive governments have deliberately kept us away from Africa and interacting and mingling with the African continent, and chosen to do so with the West, with America and England and so on. Many of our leaders have selectively gone that way and totally ignoring Africa, and now we see governments of the Caribbean are now gravitating towards Africa. So we think that is a step in the right direction, and we want to continue to encourage CARICOM to keep those close ties with Africa, so that is something that we very much are very proud of at this time. So CARICOM, the grouping of the islands, working together, trying to ensure that everything is harmonized for the further development of the people of the Caribbean. And it is our dream one day that we can have an actual president of CARICOM, whereby you could have one president for the Caribbean, because the Caribbean islands, some of them are so small, some of them barely have 200,000 people, so we believe at some point, I don't know if I'll live to see it or my children will live to see it, is in the same way that we're hoping one day there'll be a president of Africa, where the African countries through the AU can have a political structure where they can have one president and one currency and one passport. Is the same ideal and the same dreams that we have even here within the Caribbean region through CARICOM.
Serious thing that they are talking about, serious vision, and it's consistent with, as you say, His Majesty vision for the Caribbean joining up with the OAU. And I think it also makes us rethink how we lay out repatriation, because at one time the elders say we couldn't give up a continent for an island. And, the thought was to abandon the islands, which were colonial possessions, and return to Africa. But now with CARICOM becoming part of the 6th region, it don't make sense to abandon these satellites of the continent. It's more, how do we integrate these satellite states into the continent? Because right now they're very vulnerable. Most of the islands, particularly because of the IMF World Bank policies, import most of their food. Most of them are not self-sufficient or food sovereign. And so this is why this global shipping crisis, because right now the prices of diesel and fuel are being kept artificially low because they're manipulating the market, but the supply, that at some point you hit a thing where you take off over 200 million barrels of oil, which were coming out of the Persian Gulf. That's going to hit some way, you know what I mean? You can't, after a while, no matter how much you speculate and you thing. And then also what's keeping the price of fuel down is that a lot of countries are using their strategic reserves. So they're filling the gap, but those reserves are running low. So this is why they're saying by fall, late August, fall, that there's going to be a huge economic shock wave that hits the West. So this is why the preparation is so important, because these islands are vulnerable. And if they don't trade with each other and don't establish pipelines to the motherland that can supply them, this leaves us very vulnerable. So the work that CARICOM and the AU are doing is really essential, because also the other part is that they're vulnerable to climate change. We saw with Hurricane Melissa, almost wipe out half of Jamaica right there. So, farms, everything wipe off of the thing. And these islands, some of them don't have mountains. You saw what happened with Montserrat, with the volcano.
Volcano, yeah, yeah.
So these islands, even though we love them, and these are literal paradise on earth. And if you haven't been to the Caribbean, to my African brothers and sisters, the Caribbean is a literal paradise. This is why it's hard to get things done in the Caribbean, because they have good ganja and them is a paradise. So they rust them. You know what I mean? They take the time because you wake up every day, you literally see a paradise, But that being said, without the sovereignty, because none of these islands are sovereign, it's very perilous. And we're about to find out, King, the veil is about to be lifted with this war, World War III, that's happening right now. The veil is about to be pulled back on what you really living in the West. You know what I mean? So I think it's so important we come together as Rastafari and make our preparation, collective security for surety. You know what I mean?
Surely.
That being said, now bring us to the reparation argument. How does reparation fit into the CARICOM agenda? And then tell us about the forum that you recently attended and what's happening.
Right. So, as you know, recently, from the 5th to the 8th of July, the CARICOM heads of government, they met for their 51st meeting here in St. Lucia. And I guess it was really held here because the chairmanship was being turned over to our very own Prime Minister. So I guess they felt it was the best place to get it done. So that's why they held the meeting here. This meeting, there was different side conferences happening, vis-a-vis the heads of government meeting and the retreat and their own conferences, etc. After the opening ceremony, one of the side conferences was the conference on reparations. And I believe it was back in 2013 when the heads of government, the issue was brought to the table of CARICOM through the Honorable Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at the time, the Honorable Ralph Gonzalez. Excuse me. So he brought the issue of reparations to the table, and a committee was set up to look into the issue. And thereafter, CARICOM decided to set up a commission, which is headed by the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Sir Hilary Beckles. And Sir Beckles wrote a book called the Britain's Black Debt, to show what Britain owes the black people of the world for their participation in the trafficking of African bodies, during the Atlantic Passage. So you find that during the conference recently, it was on the Tuesday, I believe, there was the side conference dealing with reparations, and so Hilary Beckles was there as well. One of the things CARICOM mandated a couple of years ago was that every island within CARICOM must set up their own National Reparations Committee. And the chairpersons of the National Reparations Committee would have a seat at the CARICOM's Reparations Commission. So every island was mandated to form their own National Reparations Committee. So here in St. Lucia, we have such a committee. And of course, the Rastafari Council is a member on the committee. We have about 2 of us representing the council on that committee. And the chairman of that committee, Brother Earl Bousquet, he's the one who chaired this recent forum within the CARICOM heads of government meeting on the whole aspect of reparations. So we also have people like our former Governor General, Dame Paulette Louisy. She's a member of our National Reparations Committee as well. We have the Honorable June Suma, which is the ambassador. She's an ambassador, and she's also the link between the African Union and CARICOM as the 6th region. She's the rep on the committee with the African Union for the 6th region. So we also have one of our highly decorated Catholic priests by the name of Monsignor Father Patrick Anthony. We call him Paba. He's a member of the committee as well. Bongo Wisely is also a member of the committee as a representative of Crow. So the committee is a well-constituted committee, and the chairperson of the committee was the one who organized the side event dealing with reparations. And we had some very interesting presentations being made. The theme song for the forum was Reparations Now, which is a calypso composed by a Rastafari brethren here in St. Lucia, who is known as Go Black. He has won the calypso crown, a couple times, and he's a very prominent calypsonian here in St. Lucia. And he sang songs about Haiti. He has a song about reparations, and that is the song that is being used as the theme song for the National Reparations Committee in St. Lucia. And I believe the chairman also announced that they now plans to honor him for that song. So Rastafari again in the front line of the reparations movement. And the discussions were really to speak to where we are right now as far as the reparation struggle is concerned. And so Hilary Beckles brought us up to speed on that, letting us know that the action that was taken at the United Nations, at the UN, where they adopted the resolution as stating that the enslavement of African people and the trafficking of African bodies were constituted the gravest crime against humanity. And of course, we know the United States, Argentina, and Israel voted against the resolution, and the European Union was very silent. They remained silent and they did not vote on the issue. So you had over 100 and I believe 120 something countries which voted for the resolution. So Hilary spoke to that and letting us know that we are on the right path. And right now he's supposed to be, on behalf of CARICOM, he's supposed to be traveling to England, I believe on Friday coming, where he has to make a presentation to the UK Parliament, to let them make the case for reparations, because this is gaining momentum. And the Honorable Dr. June Suma mentioned that this is actually probably the biggest movement of the 21st century, the fight for reparations. So it goes to show that Rastafari have been on the right path and on the right track. We don't really beat our chest and say, well, we told you so. But, in the early days of the reparation struggle, we were the ones at the front line of this, and we were considered mad, we were considered crazy. Some of us went to the asylum. Some of us were imprisoned, for fighting for issues like reparations. So we give thanks that right now our leaders are waking up to the reality that we need to fight for reparations, and they have embraced the reparation struggle, even at the CARICOM level. And I find to some extent they don't really acknowledge the efforts and the sacrifice that the Rastafari community have made, to keep these kind of issues on the front burner, because we know that these issues were, quote unquote, not sexy at the time that we were talking about it for the leaders to embrace. But now they have come around full circle and realizing the need for us to fight for this noble cause and for this justice, for our ancestors, lest we become traitors to the cause. So now they have jumped on this bandwagon and almost, sidelining the Rastafari community, and we sometimes have to fight to have a seat at the table when it comes to these issues. When this thing was first conceptualized and CARICOM first embraced it, there was a conference in St. Vincent where I believe the Honorable Priest Kailash, really had to take a stance to ensure that issues like repatriation was placed as part of the 10-point plan for reparatory justice, because there's a 10-point plan being put out by CARICOM. They call it the Reparations Manifesto. And through the agitation of the Rastafari community, repatriation is placed, I believe, the 3rd point within that 10-point plan. So we've seen again the influence of the Rastafari community, although we don't get the credit for it, but we have been at the front line of such issues. And even at CARICOM level now, we need to make the case. And it's unfortunate that I didn't get the opportunity to address the gathering, because we need to make a case to CARICOM that there is a bill, there's a reparatory justice bill that is owed to the Rastafari community because of all the decades of atrocities and brutalization committed against the Rastafari community, criminalizing our whole community just
Yeah.
because of the prohibition of cannabis. So we've gone through some real dreadful times at the hands of CARICOM leaders and Caribbean leaders. So I'm saying, yes, we as Rastafari, we will never give up the fight for reparations on a global scale from the former colonialists and the colonial powers. But CARICOM still has that elephant in the room to address reparations for the Rastafari community for all the decades of brutalizations committed against our community. And we here in St. Lucia, we have given the Prime Minister here our own 10-point plan for reparatory justice for the Rastafari community here in St. Lucia. And we find that they are pussyfooting on the issue, and we have to dance a yard before we dance abroad. There is a reparatory justice call for the Rastafari community here within the Caribbean region through CARICOM. Now they have set up a committee to look into the Rastafari issues. We are hoping that they're not going to make decisions for us behind our backs without we having a seat at the table to say what we need and how we see our reparatory justice should be paid out to us. It may not be in dollars and cents, but there are things that can be done to show that, you know, as one of the 10-point plan within CARICOM, the 10-point plan, one of the first things is a sincere apology that they're asking for, and we're calling for the European powers to give us a sincere apology. CARICOM leaders need to do the same thing for the Rastafari community. There is no division with us and CARICOM fighting for our reparations globally. Rastafari will continue that fight, but we want CARICOM to acknowledge and apologize for what they have done to the Rastafari community. And all along, the issues that Rastafari have been professing and speaking to, right now, CARICOM is taking it up. They are looking to legalize cannabis, which they fight us and kill us for. They are looking to cash in on reparations, which we have been championing that cause. We've also been championing the cause of encouraging our people to eat healthy. All these issues, like Bob Marley said back in the late 70s, early 80s, before he died in 81, Bob Marley said that Rastafari is the future. And the issues that Rastafari has been espousing and articulating to the world, we see now that this is what is coming to the fore right now. To hear an ambassador state that the reparations fight and the movement of reparations is perhaps going to be the greatest fight and the greatest movement of the 21st century, that is vindication for us within the Rastafari community to know that we've been right all along. So we will not come and beat our chest and say we were right, but we need some level of acknowledgement, some level of reparatory justice for us, for our experience and at the hands of government. Dominica had a law called the Dread Act, where Rastafari was not even allowed into the Caribbean island of Dominica. In St. Lucia, you had a policy of shoot first and ask questions later, you know, and many of our Rastafari people were murdered. So there must be a reckoning, there must be a reasoning, something to show that, hey, we must take responsibility. CARICOM leaders must take responsibility for what was done to the Rastafari community and set up some kind of reparatory fund for the Rastafari community.
Yes, I've been reasoning with Ras Iron, the president of CRO. I connected him with the RMO, which is the Jamaica Umbrella Organization. So their dialogue is taking place in terms of, you know, coming together. So we give thanks for the passion that the I is exposing, and the great gathering is happening. That is the thing that we have to be joyful about. But we also have to be realistic. Big up yourself, Marty Lava. I'm going to get to some of the comments, but one of the things that we have to understand with reparation is that the colonial states right now are collapsing themselves. You know, all of them are heavily indebted. All of them are energy insufficient, probably with the exception of the United States of America, which is, as I said, wearing down their energy supplies. But when you look at Europe, Europe depends on natural liquefied gas coming out of the Persian Gulf. And right now, they're going through summer and they're literally dying because they don't have power to cool themselves. You know what I mean? They don't have AC. These things are happening. So for us to come with the claim, my thought is that we're not going to get reparation until we demonstrate that we're powerful enough to execute the leverage on these governments, because they don't respect people because of morality. That's clear. You know, we have history for that. So we see politics moves because of power. And one of the things I want to see Rastafari do is get ourselves powerful. This is why I am so big on the cooperative economic approach, because I don't think these governments are going to take us serious until they see us as powerful. The other thing I would say is that for the Caribbean countries have to know that empowering Rastafari by reparations in their countries is actually empowering themselves, because Rastafari is the backbone of your agricultural industry, you know, and this is why we're working on this ITAL certification with ones like Bongo Wisely. Sister Debbie has recently joined our subcommittee. So I know St. Lucia is well represented. But one of the reasons that we are developing this is because we have to show these governments that empowering Rastafari is empowering your food sovereignty for the Caribbean. Empowering Rastafari is giving you a competitive edge in the cannabis, the global multi-billion-dollar cannabis industry. Empowering Rastafari means that you have a group of indigenous people, meaning people who are Caribbean, who can provide jobs and employment for the youths. Them, you know, if we can industrialize the culture that they are appropriating. Empowering Rastafari means boosting your tourism over other tropical places, because when people come to the Caribbean, they're coming for a certain aesthetic. Why they don't go to other places that have white sand beaches like Asia, these things, you know, they're coming for a certain vibe and feeling. And, you know, in Jamaica, I think that's 90%, but the other islands, it might be 70% of why they're there is the same Rastafari vibe. You know what I mean? So we have to be in control of this as Rastafari, as part of the reparatory justice, you know, having a plan where the governments are investing capital to help Rastafari to scale, and also ease the restrictions, as the I said, because until we are powerful, and the Caribbean governments have to know this, the UK, I mean, we see what's happening in Israel. We see what's happening with the UN and international law as a whole. You know, there's no respect. So, you know, because reparation is essentially a threat that we're going to take them to task legally because of the crimes that they did. That's, you know, but if the international law is not real, then, you know, if you don't have power, you can't enforce your will on anybody. So I want us as a community to know that there's no going around. Don't feel like reparation is going to save us and that's what's going to bring us to power. It's the other way around, is when we break the barriers that are keeping us separate and we become powerful, that is when the reparation is going to come, and that is when we'll be able to manifest. You know, this is my song. Oh, my song, Ras Iron.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the vibe is, we look at reparations on two fronts. We look at reparations on what we call internal reparation, and we look at external reparation. So what you're speaking to there is the internal reparation that we need to heal ourselves and realize our own power, and to seize on our own power. And then now the external reparations would be what we are seeking from the former colonial powers. Because we remember, Britain compensated the slave plantation owners. You know, they gave them reparations. And that reparations bill the last payment was made in 2015. So sometimes there are people who say, oh, that was so long ago, that slavery thing happened. forget about that and let's move on and so on and so forth. We hear that kind of talk a lot of times from people who look like us and act like us and say they're one of us. But they fail to acknowledge that Britain's payment of reparations to the slave plantation owners who were, in their view, quote unquote, losing their property because they considered the African bodies to be property. So they were losing their property and Britain gave them reparations. The last payment was made in 2015. So which means that the descendants of the African enslaved people, our ancestors, their descendants, which is I and I this time, we were paying that debt on behalf of the British government through our taxes that the British government was collecting all this during this time up to 2015. We were actually paying that debt. So how you could tell me you could pay that debt until such time? It took them, I believe, somebody said in the gathering at the CARICOM meeting, somebody indicated that they paid that debt. It took them 168 years up to 2015 to pay that debt. So if it have to take them another 168 years to pay the enslaved people descendants, then so be it. So be it. So we should not be a traitor to say to our people, forget about reparations or don't fight for reparations. We'll never get reparations and so on. Now the African continent have a huge part to play in even us getting reparations, because remember, Britain, Europe, a lot of the European countries depend on the free flow of natural resources from Africa to Europe. So now we are seeing some African countries are saying, well, wait a minute. We are no longer going to extract and export our raw materials to Britain and to Europe and so on and so forth. We're going to establish the processing plants in Africa itself and process our own raw materials and sell refined products to the rest of the world. So they are now declaring resource sovereignty. And that within itself is a problem for Europe, because they were buying the raw material so cheap, process it and sell it back to Africa at such high cost. So the African countries are now putting a stop to this. So Britain and the European countries now have to pay the fair market value for the products coming out of Africa, the refined products. So they don't like that. So at the end of the day, the African continent has a part to play in ensuring that they declare resource sovereignty, and these things are going to force them to take us seriously, that they must pay that black debt. Because recently, even at the forum again, the CARICOM forum, one of the presenters, Sir Henry Beckles, was saying that he was somewhere in America, in Atlanta, and he was speaking to some black persons, African Americans who work within the postal service, and they were saying that they've been seeing checks being paid to Jewish people, as recent as the 2000s. These people were receiving checks from the Federal Reserve, 700 US, 1,200 US. These people receiving checks, and they were wondering why these people receiving those checks like that every month. So when he did some digging, and he realized that in his research, he found out that after the Holocaust of the Jews, Germany had to put in reparations money in the Federal Reserve to be paid to the descendants of the Jews that they terminated or they executed during the Second World War, and they had to be paying those checks to those Jews descendants up until the 2000s. So an elder lady within the postal service, who at that time came to collect her check, she said to Mr. Beckles, has he ever seen a reparations check? And he said no. And she showed him the stub from a reparations check marked from the Federal Reserve Reparation Fund for Jewish Holocaust victims. So you're saying that there's precedent for reparations to be paid to a people that have been wronged. So our cause is a just cause. And even though it might seem insurmountable because Europe don't want to take us serious, or Europe feel that they are Goliath and we are David, like His Majesty said, with truth, justice, and the right cause, even in this 21st century, David will still beat Goliath.
Yes, yes. Marty Lava says reparation claims will take sharp legal minds steeped in jurisprudence. I can tell you, Marty Lava, when I was in law school, I worked with an organization called NCOBRA. I did research for them, and that's when I learned about the Japanese also being paid reparation by the U.S. government for the internment
Hiroshima.
camp. Yeah, not for Hiroshima, for the internment camps. America put Japanese in concentration camps in the U.S. during the World War II after Pearl Harbor. They rounded up the Japanese on the West Coast and they put them in camps, you know. Right. So they were paying them for that. But I can tell you that the case for reparation, a lot of work and research has been done. Shipping lineage, the companies, the insurance companies that insured the Africans, all of that information to make the legal case exist.
Right.
What does not exist is the power to get this in front of anybody who can, because people don't understand that law is one thing, but there's no one, if you have no one to enforce that law, it's just paper. You know what I mean?
But it is left pretty much to the conscience of organizations and so on, because we're hearing that even recently I heard Germany has now announced a 1-point-something billion euros to the people of Namibia for the colonial era. So we saw that the Church of England, the Anglican Church, paying some 20 million pounds sterling for reparations victims. You know, so we are seeing gradually, even France, I've heard recently, France is now entertaining the talk of reparations. So I think that gradually we are gaining ground. It's a matter of time before the whole of Europe start accepting the fact that they have to pay reparations. Because even now, I mean, I'm sure you've heard, Iran has claimed reparations from the United States, and they have saying that about 300 billion will be going to Iran. So even in recent times there, what the United States have done to Iran, Iran has claimed reparations. So I think our reparations issue is going to happen. Maybe we don't see it full-fledged in our lifetime, but I think the ground is shifting, the tables are turning, that we are going to eventually get that victory of good over evil.
I think that you're going to see it in this lifetime. And I think that what you're seeing, why countries like Germany are paying reparation is because they're trying to establish positive relation with these African nations, because Germany has been deindustrialized. So Germany is losing its economic base right now because of what's happening with the Ukraine war. You know, the Nord Stream pipeline, which was bringing cheap energy from Russia to Germany, was destroyed. And so Germany had to buy energy from the US at a much higher cost. So a lot of the factories, because, you know, Germany is the industrial powerhouse of Europe. A lot of the factories that were in Germany have moved out of Germany. So Germany is actually going through a major crisis right now, economically, just like the rest of the Europe. So as they're going down, they're looking for ways. So that's why I'm saying reparation is never given because of goodwill.
No, it's forced. We have to force their hand.
You know what I mean?
The hands are forced.
Their hands are forced, and it's strategic because they understand that they have to now make good for them to build that relationship with these African countries that are rising. Same thing with France. France lost a portion of its revenue with the AES. Now they're talking about all of these different things, and you see them with other African countries, and they're trying to play nice and these things. France is mostly powered by nuclear power. And Ras Super, I saw your question about, let me find it there. And continue to send in the questions. We love the reasoning. I don't know if you know Ras Iron, but I have the best comment section on the whole internet. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I heard that, but we have the greatest comment section on the internet. High level high level questions and reasoning. We have experts of all kind. You know what I mean?
Good one.
Rasupa says, do you think that the power we need includes nuclear power in direct opposition to him appeal for disarmament? And I would say that I think, I used to, as a young Ras, always wonder when I was reading the speech, because Marcy talks good about nuclear power and the power of the atom, in terms of revolutionizing for humanity. And then now lately I see where they're finding new technologies to utilize the nuclear waste and recycle it back and extend the life of nuclear reactors. So I think nuclear power is definitely an option. And I know China's working on nuclear fusion and different technologies. But nuclear weapons, I think that's what His Majesty talking about when he's talking about, disarmament. He's not talking about nuclear power, which, splitting an atom and creating a infinite power source potentially. His Majesty, I think, wanted mankind to continue down that path of refinement to find all different
for peaceful purposes.
For peaceful purposes, you understand?
Yeah.
So I would say that yes, we need nuclear physicists as Pan-Africans. We need people to study these things and to become adept in all of these different technologies. We can't be afraid of those things, but nuclear weapons, I think we have to stay far away from going.
But remember, Honorable, during the time of apartheid in South Africa, South Africa had nuclear weapons.
Yes.
And before Mandela was released from prison, they removed all these things from South Africa and took it back to the US and back to Israel.
Yes.
Because they stated that they cannot allow any African country to have nuclear power, nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Right? Because again, some countries are thinking, hey, they're using having a nuclear weapon will serve as a deterrent to them being invaded or attacked by another superpower. And that is why even now they are stressing that they cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
Yes.
You see? So, but Israel can have, and Israel is next door. So you could see that there's a lot of injustice where a man wants to rule his house and tell you how to rule your house. Now, I agree with you that I don't think they should have nuclear proliferation on the African continent. I'm not in support of nuclear weapons in Africa, but just to show you how these people think of us Africans, and they do not want us to have nuclear weapons. South Africa had it. They removed it before Mandela was released because they know Mandela would become the president and Mandela would have nuclear weapons under his hands. So they don't want that. So North Korea has gotten their nuclear weapon as well. So these things serve as a deterrent for invasion of your country, preemptive strikes on your country. But I believe Africa can find other ways to avoid these kind of preemptive attacks and these strikes on them, even though we don't have nuclear weapons on the African continent. But people power, the unity of our people must serve as a deterrent to any country that wish to inflict any invasion or preemptive strike on any African country, whether it be the Sahel region or any African country who goes contrary to what the West dictates, and they will try to invade them like what they did to Libya, which was a damn shame that the African Union told the NATO that allowed them to go into Libya and have some words with Gaddafi, and they told the African Union leaders, if they go to Libya, they cannot guarantee their safety because NATO is about to attack Libya. The African Union, that is why we need one army in Africa, because NATO had no right, and again, pro-Obama, that caused this kind of things. They had no right to go into Libya and do what they do there to Gaddafi. So we must make sure that these things never happen to any other African leader on the African continent. And the black people of the West, the African Americans, the British African people, black people in France, all over the world, we should serve as a barrier and serve as a deterrent that whenever any European country try these things, they should implode from within, where the black nation, the black population within their own countries must rise up against this kind of things. If any European country try to attack any African country, whether it be France that tried or Britain that tried, anyone that tried, the black population within those European countries must take a serious stance against this kind of things. Even in Black America should have taken a serious stance and tell Obama he cannot go and do cause NATO to go and do what they do there to Gaddafi. And the African Union was well placed to engage Gaddafi to bring this thing to a peaceful resolution, instead of resorting to the actual murder of Muammar Gaddafi. That was a travesty on the African continent. And the African Union must take responsibility for that, because they should have stopped NATO, and they should ensure that this thing never happen again on the African continent.
Here, the problem with the African Union is that it's funded by the EU. You know, the headquarters was built by China. You know, the African Union is too dependent on outside resources, and the African countries refuse to carry their weight to fund the organization, to give it teeth, because most of those leaders were put in place by the neo-colonialism infrastructure. So we have to understand a lot of the continent is compromised, which is why the AES revolution had to come from the military, because the election process has been co-opted, you know what I mean? Because the funding for the campaigns, all of that is being paid by outside entities. So this is why you see these military uprisings happening. But the fullness about what we are, where we are now, again, it always comes back to the local level, organizing, you know, with your brethren and sistren. And the reason I keep coming forward to the power reasoning is because for us to get change to happen, we have to gain power. Power starts with who feeds you, you know what I mean? Who is feeding you? How are you getting your food? Are we food sovereign? If you can't fight no war without food, you know what I mean? I don't care how bad or what revolutionary theory you want to come with. Wait 2 weeks, wait a week, and you don't feed, you don't have food, you know. So these are things that are practical. This is why I think Rastafari has to be rebuilt on an agricultural foundation. You know, we have to return to Leonard Howell foundation, pinnacle foundation, and we have to then establish our industry. And this is where I think the internal reparation comes in, you know, through the sacramental ganja industry, you know, because we have to have the right to be able to trade in our sacrament in the same way that the Catholic Church was given exemptions during Prohibition to be able to have their sacrament, which was wine. And, you know what I mean, there's historical precedents for these things. So we need carve-outs to allow us to function our ecosystems. And these are things that I think CARICOM, you know, these are the low-hanging fruit. The issue is something called the Monroe Doctrine, you know, or they renamed it the Donroe Doctrine, where everything have to come through America, because the person that's keeping herb illegal in the Caribbean is not the Caribbean leaders. You know, all of the Caribbean leaders have to respond to the American presence in their nations, you know. They're major funders. They all get drug interdiction money for thing, and cannabis is on that list. So until they come up with a common approach, and I think that's where we're headed, because they're getting less and less assistance from America, as America has to divert resources elsewhere. This is why you see, this is the subcontext of what's happening, you know. They're getting left out there, and they're being forced now. They're not getting the same kind of support as the empire fractures and is strained. So this is a time of great opportunity. I think we're gonna live to see reparation and repatriation. I'm one of them people there, you know. I don't feel like it's not, because remember too, the time is accelerating. You know what I mean? Everything is happening rapidly now. We're in that time where every day things that used to be a headline that would, you know what I mean, rocket for a decade, that gone by tomorrow. You know what I mean? We're seeing some monumental things happening globally, and that can't even hold 24-hour news cycle. But by the next day, something else, and we become so desensitized because so much things are happening.
Yes,
You know
I.
what I mean? But things are going to happen rapidly. And as I said, as the energy shock hits the West, because remember, the West has not been really tested, you know, as a whole. COVID was a little sneak peek, but the West hasn't been tested for a long time in the little in tribulation. We have gotten very used to the comforts, you know, certain little comforts in the West. Food shortage, energy crisis. We're gonna see how it manifests, because as we're talking right now, the US is bombing Iran. You know what I mean? That war is back on full. Again, it's gonna keep on going like that. Like I said, it's a long war. It's gonna be on and off. But what is happening, and we have to understand this, is that they're collapsing the system to bring in the new system. They already have the new system that they want to bring in. So we think this is just something happening as a byproduct, and like them now expect that. No, this is the whole purpose of what they're doing, is to crash the system. They owe so much debt. They're crashing the system, and they're gonna bring back this digital system.
Currency, yes, I.
I already know the play. We all know the play, because we've been talking about this how long? Since I've been chatting, you've been hearing about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Cashless society, this and that. You know, you can't buy or sell without this and that. They tested it out during COVID with the vaccine. You couldn't fly, you couldn't do certain thing without certain thing. So they start program you. So we have to be very serious right now, you know. That being said, before we seal up, I want the eye to tell us some of the works that ICAR is doing there in St. Lucia. How are the item preparing, or if you are preparing, the item are preparing for any of the things that are potentially going to hit the Caribbean in terms of food storage? Are there any agricultural projects happening in St. Lucia? Just give us an overview, aside from the reparation, some of the works, and then also how people can support ICAR, and also the I works, if there's anything that the I is doing personally, if you know, just explain how one can support.
Yes, give thanks for that question, my brother. Well, first of all, personally, my work, as I indicated earlier, from the beginning of the program, where I spoke to my profession. So I'm into the boating sector, and the suggestion that you brought about to have, you know, a vessel or vessels to mimic the Black Star liner, which was set up by Marcus Garvey. These are things that is very possible, and again, you know, this can be done by GoFundMe kind of projects, you know, but currently there's no plans afoot to actually go down that line. But that is my personal business that I'm into in terms of boating and so on.
Yes.
In as
Do
far
you
as the
own a ship?
organization,
Do you own a ship, or you lease a ship, or how does that work?
I lease.
Okay.
Yeah. So the time is coming where I'm going to actually make some moves with owning my ship. But for
Wow.
now, I lease. Yeah.
So we need to have a GoFund or something for the eye, so you can buy the ship, King.
Yes, but the ship would be based in the Caribbean. It would not be a ship that would go through the Atlantic and go to Africa.
We have to start somewhere. We have to
True.
start somewhere. You know
Trading
what I mean?
among ourselves, the whole Rastafari within the
Yes,
Caribbean, trading
yes.
among ourselves.
Yes.
Yes, I am. So we'll have some further discussions on that.
Hold on 1 second, because I want to share my vision with the eye. I do this every episode.
See.
I have a vision you know, like Martin Luther King had a dream. I have a vision where my Lion Pride, which is my audience, if you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. We're 75,000. We're going to hit 76,000 probably tomorrow.
See.
I have a dream, or I have a vision that 50,000 of my subscribers would give $10 to my guests. You know what I mean? And that my guests, I would get a call from Ras Iron in the morning and say, look in his account, and he see 500,000 US dollars from his appearance on the Lion Voice Network. And Ras Iron say, you know what, Ras, I'm gonna put down a payment on a ship. You know, that's my dream, you know, Ras Iron.
Yes, I am.
That's my vision with.
I feel the eye. I feel the eye. I feel the eye.
You understand? Because
I feel the eye.
75,000 is not a small number, and I know we might have to hit 1 million subscribers before we get 50,000. You know, because a numbers game. You know, a lot of people are just casual watchers. Even right now, we have some Lion Pride. I wanna bring up something here quickly, because I want to thank some of my Lion Pride family. We've been showing this, our elder Nana Faraika. When we started, it was at 35, it's at 37 now. So I want to big up all of the Lion Pride who have been contributing. We're trying to get this to 4,000. So this is one of my teachers. She's one of the elders who pioneered Empress Menen. One of the reasons why in Rastafari we acknowledge Empress Menen is because this elder here championed Queen Omega in the early days, you know, bringing her into the Nyabingi house, finding out information about Empress Menen, doing program poetry. She's a journalist. You know, one of our great matriarchs, also the founder of Empress of Zion. She had a conference for Rastafari women. I think it's the first Rastafari woman conference, and out of that conference came Empress of Zion, which now being carried by our Royal Queen Mother Moses. But this is Nana Faraika, one of our great matriarch. So you can go to GoFundMe, put in Nana Faraika, and support her recovery. She had some circulation issues, and this is being run by her family. So this is not coming to I. This is being run by her daughter, and the family is behind it. So we want to show that love and that support as a global Rastafari family. Hopefully the next time by Saturday, when we pull this up, it will be at the 4,000 mark. And also remember, we have our ancient Bongo Wisely as well. It's cataract surgery. So look at the bottom of the screen. You can contact the elder directly. Western Union, MoneyGram. He will let you know the best way. And these are two elders, each protected. You know what I mean? We are fulfilling our creed, and we do give thanks again for the generosity of the global Lion Pride family. All right, so definitely I wanted to just say to the eye, next time the eye come, you know, hopefully the platform will be at a place where we can start help the eye to raise the capital to purchase a boat, because that's what I'm about. We want to see Rastafari ownership. You know what I mean? Because before we take on the Atlantic, it would be good to know that there's a Ras going from island to island, you know, because that can be one of the things that we talk to CARICOM about, free up the shipment of the sacrament between the islands, where we can, you know, some of the islands don't grow good ganja, you know what I mean? Jamaica should be able to take that good ganja from Orange Hill, Westmoreland, and spread it through the Caribbean. You know what I mean? That's grown to a ITAL standard, so that people who are doing their sacramental use can have a Irie meditation, and we're trading up and down. So that is something that we want to see manifested. But aside from the eye shipping, I interrupted the eye.
Yes, sir.
The eye can take us forward to the works of ICAR.
ICAR, yes, I. So within ICAR, we have various committees. The organization has what we call a biannual general meeting where we elect an executive. Our last one was held in March the 26th, where we elected a new executive to serve for the next 2 years. And most of the executive that was there for the past 2 years most of the members will return to hold their post because the members were satisfied with the works, and including myself, I was retained as the president, voted in again for another term of 2 years. So we have various committees. We have what you call quarterly general meetings. So like every 3 to 4 months, we have general meetings where we update the members with what is happening, etc. So our committees, we have education committee, we have the health committee, we have agriculture committee, mobilization committee, so we have various committees within ICAR. And then that is the groundings, that is where the works of the organization is really done at the committee level. The committee is the ones that are really on the ground, engaging in different projects, engaging in different works within the Rastafari community. For example, the education committee had a program which we run throughout the school system, where we were going to the high schools and talk to the children about the need to stay away from gangs and stay away from violence, managing their emotional intelligence, accepting their African history, speaking to them about great African leaders, leaders of African descent who have contributed greatly toward the race and so on. So we got permission from the education ministry for us to actually go into the different secondary schools to carry out that sort of a program. So that's been done within our education committee of ICAR. We have the Culture and Mobilization Committee, who is responsible for staging events like Marcus Garvey celebrations, the birthday of His Majesty, emancipation. We have different activities like Black History Month. So the Culture and Mobilization Committee is the one who is the engine behind this kind of observances and celebrations. We have the Health Committee. We actually joined the Health and Nutrition Committee with the Agricultural Committee, and they are currently engaged in a bee project. So they are looking at the beekeeping. There's a beekeeping project that they are engaged with currently, and the Agricultural Committee is also looking to have an agricultural project being implemented on behalf of the organization, because that's the Agricultural Committee of the organization. We work with different farms and farmers. For example, there's a Rastafari farm here, which is well known for many years in St. Lucia, called the Iyanola Rastafari Heritage Roots Farm. So this is a farm where we implement different agricultural projects, but they have their own management board, and they are looking into food sovereignty. So the organization works closely along with that farm to ensure that we are able to plant our food. And apart from cash crops, we also go into grain. So we're growing rice as well. We're growing soybeans. So we're growing things that produce that actually has a long shelf life, So we are actually getting engaged in those kind of things. We want to actually go into agro processing as well to add value to some of our products, that some of our produce. We want to add value, packaging, etc. To process our soybeans for soy milk and tofu and different products that soy bread, different products that can actually be made out of soy. So we're actually looking into having our own processing area, agro processing area. So this is done on the farm level, but with donations and support from ICAR. ICAR also, through our health committee, again, we implement programs of assisting our brothers and sisters who may have health conditions, medical conditions that they need assistance with. However we can assist, we do so through monetary contributions as well. And of course, we have, through our education committee, we have back to school support being offered to our members, where we support the families with stationery. So, if there are people that are willing to donate this kind of stuff to the organizations for onward distribution to our members' children, the less fortunate and so on. We do this kind of programs because ICAR is like a charity, you know, it is a non-profit organization. So we do fundraising. We also get an annual subvention from the government of St. Lucia to the tune of $25,000 annually. So to support some of our programs. So we also have to ensure we do our own fundraising because the $25,000 will not cut it. You know, we have an office to run, etc. So it takes a lot. But these are some of the works that the council is engaged in, and we continue to do these works on the ground within our community to ensure that, you know, we support our community.
Give thanks, give thanks. I think it's commendable what the IDEM are doing. And again, I just love to hear these things because one of the things that we wanted to do with this channel is to erase the stereotype that Rastafari just sit down and smoke ganja and listen reggae music and are not being productive. That's never been my experience treading this trod. And I am so glad that now we have evidence anywhere you are and somebody say, what is Rastafari doing? You can say, just subscribe to the Lion Voice Network and you will hear and you will see the works around the world, how productive Rastafari people are being. So I want to big up all the St. Lucia, Iyanola family. Keep on shining the light. I want to welcome the eye to the Lion Voice Network again. This is part one. The eye is now part of the Lion Voice family. So anytime you need to utilize this platform to highlight anything that's happening with Iyanola, ICAR, events, you can have your PR person link us. You know, we are here as a community resource to inform the global family and keep the global family in tune with what's happening in Rastafari. You know what I mean? Because I notice different places, you know, you go and you see a little weariness. You know, we chant and say we never get weary, you know, but we can see there's a little weariness setting in because you don't see the youth them and that strength and that zeal. Like one time you see most people getting older. You know, the gatherings getting thinner. This is not happening in any one place, but it's a universal kind of vibe. And so this is the job of the media, just to show people, don't get weary now. We're so close to the victory. You know what I mean? All of that work that was put in was not wrong. You know what I mean? All of that sacrifice was to bring us to where we are today. And now that we are here, now is really time to press gas and to rise up and to really become your best self so you can meet the challenge of the times, you know what I mean? And shine that light. So I really give thanks. I know many people are inspired. There is probably the first Rastafari captain, ship captain, most ones are seeing on the planet, you know. So if let me just do a test. If he's the first Rastafari ship captain that you know or that you've seen, put an emoji in the comment section. All of the people watching live, if this is your first Rastafari ship captain that you know of, put some emoji in the comment section. Let me just do a little quick test and see who's awake and who's sleeping and what go on. If it's just me alone tonight, get a new experience. And boy, may I tell you, I feel good because one of the things I know, King, is that every something that we need, His Majesty has risen an angel. You know what I mean? For hold that post. You know what I mean? Every something where we need, His Majesty has risen some angel. We don't have to reinvent no wheel. You know what I mean? Because if I ever get $1 billion, I'm gonna link there and we're gonna do a Black Star line at the same time, you know, because I know a ship captain. You understand? We know a ship captain. So we know what to do when the money come in, you know what I mean? We don't have to reinvent no wheel. really, really make me proud, you know.
Yeah, man.
That being said, give us some final sound for the global family.
Yes, I.
We've
So
gone
I
two
just want to
months. Go
blast the
ahead.
sound, to say that we need to support each other. Unity is the accepted goal. Whether it be Rastafari, whether it be Pan African people, we are all in this together. We have to hold hands and hold strong. We see the world crumbling all around us and what is happening in the world today. We must always stand up for right, no matter what it costs us. We must always speak the truth and stand up for right and ensure that we reach across the globe to support each other. And whatever the situation might be, everybody have their own, proverbial cross to carry, but at the end of the day, we must look to give back to our community. We must ensure that we support our community because the works that need to be done within our community, and nobody gonna do it for us but we ourselves. So we have to support what is ours, support our various Rastafari mansions, support our various Rastafari organizations, our Rastafari churches, support what is ours, my brothers and sisters. Let us build a strong economic base. Let us ensure that we support our church, we support our organization, we have to set up cooperatives, we have to ensure that we do those things in this Iowa. And as the kind of example that Marcus Garvey taught us, and even His Majesty himself taught us about thriftness. So we have to look into those kind of things and ensure that we build a strong economic base. And those brothers and sisters who are out there in their field, whatever assistance they may be need to take them to the next level, those of us who can afford to do it, those of us who can come together in large numbers, we can make these things happen. These things are very, very possible. By little contribution by the masses of us, we can make things happen, brothers and sisters. So I give thanks for being on this program this evening, and it has been a pleasure to enlighten brothers and sisters over land and sea as to what is happening as far as the Rastafari front and Pan-African people front here in Iyanola, St. Lucia. And we're looking forward to any other engagements and whatever events that we have in, we'll always look to share it with the global family to let them know what is happening with I right here in Iyanola, St. Lucia, and within the Caribbean region. I give thanks and praise, blessed love, and let the words of thy mouth and the meditation of thy heart to be found acceptable in the sight of all thy brethren and sistren. Blessed love.
Blessed love, blessed love. We do give thanks for the eye. This was another classic episode. We don't do nothing but classic around here. I hope the eye them start to realize that. We are giving you top tier Rastafari content, unapologetic Rastafari Pan-African content. This is another episode. If you want to be part of our community, join us, Lion Pride on Patreon. Big up Amaha Selassie, our latest member of our Patreon, a brethren I've known over 20 years out of Ohio. Bingy man, big up yourself, Amaha, for joining, being the latest member. You can join as little as $5 a month. We recommend coming in at the $10 level. We're building an army. We have started our Community Works grant, $100 US to a community worker every month. We'll be giving out, you get a vote. Once you become a member, a monthly member, you get your vote. After being a member for 3 months, then you can nominate anyone in your community for that grant. And at our town hall meetings every month, we vote for the recipient. Big up all of the Lion Pride who come to the town hall meetings, who are building together. We have special guests, development. So we're building a community aside from gathering here on the lives. If you're interested and not just being a passive observer of the Armageddon, but building a force that's going to be able to really make a difference, come and join us as a member of the Lion Pride on Patreon. We look forward to welcoming the eye. All of my Lion Pride on Patreon, big up on yourself in the comment section. The item don't leave. I big up Ras Tafari for this interview. Ras Tafari is our Lion Pride on Patreon member of the month for July. So big up. The newsletter will be coming out on His Majesty Earthstrong I will be doing a feature on Lich Tafari. Brethren, who has been a major strength to the Lion Voice Network. Big up yourself. Big up our ancient days, Bongo Wisely. Big up my elder, Bingy Carlton, I see the eye. Big up yourself. Give thanks for the support over the years. Big up all of the ones them. You know what I mean? Marty Lava, big up yourself. Always giving thoughtful contributions to the comment section. Big up all of the ones them. If I'm missing name, Johnny Johnson. You know, all of our regular audience. I just want to say that we couldn't do this without the item. It wouldn't be possible. And the item continue to spread the word and to show up. Once again, on Saturday, we are going to South Africa. Special episode featuring Field Marshal Tau Tau, Ras Gideon. We have our sister Mimi and sister Solo, who are going to be talking about the xenophobia situation in South Africa. We're getting it direct. You know, we don't look at the headlines over here. We link some Ras from the region there and hear what them are say. So 10 a.m. Saturday morning, 4 p.m. South Africa time. Join us on the Sabbath for a serious reasoning on what is going on in South Africa. Have they rejected the Pan-African vision, or they're running out their brothers after the people them fight for apartheid from all over land and sea? You know, we're gonna find out what's going on. So join us. Also, we are again asking ones to support our elder Bongo wisely. Please support the ancient of days, support Nana Faraika, and just live good with each other. You know what I mean? Hard times are ahead, but we have each other, and we have this great Pan-African tradition, this great Rastafari liberty. So we're blessed. We're blessed, you know what I mean? We have so much. We have everything we need to survive. So I want I if it does think positive. Here's the flyer for what's coming up. This is going to be epic. This flyer is going to drop tomorrow, and it's going to be epic. Co-hosted by Ras Tafari of Frontline Books. Again, full South African panel. We're going to hear directly from the ones them what's taking place on the continent. So join us Saturday morning. It's going to be epic. That being said, give thanks, my brother. Give thanks to everyone who watching live. We have someone watching straight from Ghana. When I say that we are international platform, some people think me just run my mouth, you know. But that's why I stick out my chest a little bit sometimes. You know what I mean? We can't stick out my chest because we are a global platform. It's proven. It's proven, you know what I mean? Big up all of my international family. We're not going to stop. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice. Aye.
I want to say greetings, this is Kabanka Pyramid representing the Lion Voice blog. Make sure that them seeing Rastafari blessings every time.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Jaja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lion's Voice. Now put it. I Jollifer said that.
This is
The Abyssinians.
The time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. This is
The Lion's Voice.
They had no fear at all. It was God, it was God, let him be praised. It was God, let him be praised.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Rastafari. Lion of it tried with lioness like I do. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them. Roast and parch them.
Empress Manel, a lion, Zion, tail. Oh, your roll, universally unfold, be told. Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the Lion's Voice, Rastafari.
Greetings, this is Warrior King, and the time has come for the lions and the lioness to tell their own story. This is the Lion's Voice. Give thanks and praise for the wonderful blessing that's been poured on me. Give thanks and praise. Jah use I as an instrument to set the people free. Jah give her the powers to chant. Jah give her the powers to chant. Rastafari, the Lion's Voice.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega, representing for all lions and lionesses. With the Lion's Voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the Lion's Voice, Rastafari.
Yeah, David Dread of Steel Person. I'm saying hail to the Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the Lion's Voice. Raw.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice. Well, front to us a son was born and a child was given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called the Wonderful Counselor, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Them called him Ras Tafari. When he was born, rain fall from sky. Them call him Ras Tafari, when he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Ras Tafari, lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Them call him Ras Tafari, read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England or Cote d'Ivoire, no matter if you're brown or black like Qatar. Haile Selassie say fi end all tribal war. A time fi gather Mount Zion, fi drive solar car from the car straight to Zanzibar. Who we are, the sons of Ras Tafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Ras Tafari, when he was grown in airplanes he fly. Ras Tafari, the lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Ras Tafari, we do everything.
iRoots Records, an online shop for reggae and dub vinyl, CDs and Rastafari books. Rastafari owned and operated for over 15 years. We ship worldwide. We have many titles from Frontline Publications in stock. We have 50 plus Akabeka Midnight titles, which we believe is the most of any shop in the world. Special invite for the Lion Pride. Use code Lion's Voice and save 10% store-wide. If you spend $125 or more, the discount goes up to 15%. Visit us online at www.irootsrecords.com. The time has come.
321 Productions and RBG Alliance presents the 3rd annual Conscious Reggae Concert Family Unity Fest, featuring the Abyssinians, Aisha Bell, Mary Isaacs, Ragalux, I Brave, and many more at the Jammings in New Kingston. 2,500 pre-sold, 3,000 at the door. Children under 12 for free. Don't miss the Abyssinians live in Kingston, Jamaica. Can't be missed. History.
In the haunting echoes of violence against women in St. Anne, Jamaica, a mysterious vigilante emerges. For the woman painted purple unfurls a gripping narrative of empowerment, retribution, and the pursuit of justice. Brenda and her group sisters bond together in therapy over their common struggles, but soon their group becomes the subject of an investigation. As the vigilante's actions escalate, the relentless detective, Officer Woodley, races to unmask the mystifying figure. For the woman painted purple is a pulse-pounding tale that explores the boundaries of justice, revenge, and the fighting spirit. This thrilling saga delves into the complexities of dealing with mental health, domestic abuse, and finding love after. Own your copy today. Visit www.devonigreen.com.
This is The Black Heart Man, Rastafari children's picture book with hand-painted illustrations and rhythmic storytelling. This is a journey you do not want to miss. We offer worldwide shipping, so order your copy today at www.thegriospaintbrush.com. Alternatively, you can order your copy from TikTok. If you are interested in stocking the book, please email us at thegriospaintbrush@gmail.com. Give thanks.